Oh, yeah, and Chris wants to have a word from a
word from your sponsor. Thank you very much. I'm Chris Stevens, the Chief Counsel for this august body, the Adult Stewardship Council, and with your permission and indulgence, Mr. Chairs, what I'd like to do and what I usually do is I take about 2 minutes of your time and invite our legal intern to come up and give a really brief presentation on legal proceedings, court cases, things of interest that don't necessarily directly relate to the Delta Stewardship Council, or in this case the ISB, but are interesting. And in this case, if you do agree, and again it'll take 2 or 3 minutes, this is a perfect segue into the discussion that we've been having about moderating expectations of funding and the need to identify who pays for what. So if that's okay.
That is okay. You're once again using our intern legal talent for brilliant and succinct reports. Mr. Stevens was with, for 4 or 5 years, Cal-Fed Bay Delta during the most or all of the litigation there. And
that's right.
Has carried over as our chief counsel.
Exactly. I actually started out as a corporate lawyer in New York during mergers and acquisitions. I have no idea what I'm doing here. But I'm becoming more and more familiar with the acronyms, so I can say that. So Adam, if you can come up. This is Adam Borchardt, who's a second-year law student at McGeorge, which is part of the University of Pacific. And Adam's going to give us a quick rundown on an interesting case that's been brewing for a while.
I'm also a 2011 grad of UC Davis, and I had Jay Lund as a professor for a couple classes, so it's nice seeing you again, Jay.
You're everywhere.
So the case I like to talk about is the California Farm Bureau Federation versus California State Water Resources Control Board. It concerns the Water Board's annual water rights fee and regulations. The Sacramento Superior Court recently came out with a decision on November 12th, so just 9 days ago. It essentially validated the regulation of the fees. The case is on remand from the California Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in 2011 held that the fees on the face, they are constitutional, but that the regulation, how they are applied, that's the question. And they were remanded. The case was remanded back to the Superior Court for a lack of factual findings. So,
and these were for fees during what years?
It concerns mostly 2003 to 2004. So in 2003, the state legislature through SB 1049 implemented Water Code Section 1525, which is basically that the Water Board can assess water rights holders an annual water rights fee. Basically, the petitioner, so it was California Farm Bureau joined with Northern California Water Association, Westlands, Imperial, and Central Valley Project Water Association. They basically allege on 2 counts. One, that on Prop 13, that these fees were actually taxes, and that under the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. So with regards to the fees themselves, the petitioners were, their main complaint is that the State Water Board has jurisdiction, obviously, over post-1914 appropriators, and they were the ones feeling the burden, the whole burden for the water rights program, which was benefiting all water rights holders in the state, including pre-1914 appropriators and riparians, even some Pueblo. And those interests were not assessed the fee. So they were claiming that 62% of the water rights holders in the state were carrying the burden for the 100%, and that 32% or 38% essentially were getting the benefit but not paying the burden. Free ride, yes. And so the court, the Superior Court, said that the fees do not provide a fair and reasonable and substantially proportionate assessment of all the costs related to the regulation of the affected parties. And another interesting side note mentioned in the case is that the judge mentioned that Imperial Irrigation District pays fees on 7 different water board permits from taking Colorado River water from Imperial Dam through the All-American Canal and then to its growers in Imperial Valley. The cost adds up to about $770,000. DWR, on the other hand, pays for one permit to release water from Oroville, and as it goes all the way down to Lake Paris and the southern terminus of the State Water Project, and it pays $46,000.
And the volume of water under the state permit is big.
Yeah, it's big.
Bigger than Imperial.
Yeah. So the court wasn't really satisfied with the board's explanation of that. With regards to the supremacy clause, the Bureau has been resistant to pay the fees for the water rights program, and in anticipation of that, the state legislature in that 2003 legislation, I believe it's 1540 and 1560, basically stipulates that if the United States doesn't pay the fee, contractors and entities who have contracts with the federal government for delivery of the water, they will pay. So that would be essentially CVP contractors. And in the implementation of the fees, the board is looking at all of the Bureau's permits and licenses, and that accounts for about 116 million acre feet. And water deliveries in 2003 and 2004, I think it was about 6.6 million acre feet. So essentially the petitioners, the water contractors, are saying that that they're overstating the beneficial interests of CVP contractors and by the board imposing the fees on the contractors. So it's a very complicated matter. It originally was decided in the Superior Court in 2005. The court upheld the fees. Then in 2007, I believe, the Circuit Court of Appeals said that the fees are constitutional, but that the regulations to implement them are not. And in 2011, the California Supreme Court decided that, upheld in part, reversed in part, and remanded back to the Superior Court for the final determination, which it made just 9 days ago.
Is it not true that the Water Board, after the original court finding on the fees from year 2003 and 2004, changed their methodology in future years?
They did.
And they've been sued or are about to be sued on
I think
those?
they have been sued on that. So that's another interesting dynamic. So this just concerns 2003,
No good deed
2004.
goes unpunished.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be very interesting to see in the next coming months and years where this ends up going. So that's about it to my report. So
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We talked about taking a short break at this time. It is 5 minutes till 11. Let's do 5 minutes after 11. 10 minutes. 10-minute break. 10-minute break. Then we'll get